Hello and welcome to another Fairy Stamper video. This is Amanda from Rise and Procrastinate, and today we're going to do a little stamping with stencils. So let's get started. So I am starting off with a stencil from the Rabbit Hole Designs called Candy Twist, and I'm just showing you that I do have a background here that I pulled from my background box that I did a while ago. I did this one with Nouveau Shimmer powders. You don't have to have a pre-made background. You can definitely just use some white watercolor cardstock or any kind of paper that will accept a little bit of water here. And so I used Prize Ribbon and Villainous Potion. Just put my ink pads down directly on the stencil, and then I am just putting the stencil directly to my background, and then I'm just using my rag to tap on the back or on the back of the stencil just to make sure that if any ink oozes out, my rag will catch that. So now I'm moving on to a Tonic Studios stencil here. This one's called the Linked Rings, and I am using Salvaged Patina and Peacock Feathers. I kind of wish that I would have used a little bit darker ink on this one. Just because once the ink dried, it did fade into my background quite a bit here. I do like how the Prize Ribbon and the Villainous Potion really pop against the background, and once this dries back, you're not going to be able to see much of the stencil design at all on this. But live and learn, right? Alright, so I've got my background here. I stuck it to the my stamp platform. I have a old Cricut mat in my stamp platform, and because I did dry in between each one of my layers with the ink, my background got a bit warped, so I've just got it stuck on the sticky mat on my stamp platform. And I'm using a bit of Delicata ink in the Silvery Shimmer, I believe it's called, and I'm using one of the sparkle stamps. Let's see, it's called Sparkle Dust. Just to stamp some of the little sparkly bits on the background. And then I decided I probably better stamp my main images, and then I can fill in around it. So I'm just going to use the Leaping Reindeer and the Holiday Sparkle Sentiment. I'm stamping these in VersaFine Nocturne. And I'm going to have to stamp that Leaping Reindeer quite a few times because it is a silhouette stamp, and this is the first time that I'm using it, so we're just going to stamp it several times to get a good impression. So you probably notice in the first pictures, or the finished pictures of my card when we first started, that the sentiment is not stamped directly on the background. And you will see after I stamp this once or twice that you really can't read the sentiment. And so I decided that I will need to stamp that on a separate piece of paper. I chose purple because you just cannot see it. And so I'm just going to cover up this original sentiment here so that it is more legible. So we're just stamping this one or two more times here just to make sure that that Leaping Reindeer has a nice solid impression. And then we will move on to stamping that sentiment on a purple piece of cardstock. Well, actually, I think I'm first going to put some embossing powder on this. I did decide to use some Ranger Holographic embossing powder. This embossing powder gets a ton of use around Christmas in my craft room. It is one of my favorite embossing powders, especially around Christmas time. So I'm just going to sprinkle that over this. I did avoid that sentiment, so I'm not wasting my embossing powder on that. I did forget about my stamping with the little sparkle stamp and the Delicata ink, and because Delicata is a pigment ink, it did stick to that. And so instead of wiping it off, I just went ahead and poured it over the rest of the little sparkles around the sentiment. So now I'm just going to stamp that that sentiment with Versamark, almost said VersaFine, Versamark, onto this purple scrap of cardstock that I have here. I thought that it went quite well with the Villainous Potion. So I'm just going to get that stamped out, and then I'm going to heat emboss this with Ranger Superfine White Embossing Powder. I thought the white would contrast well with the purple, and it would be legible this time. I'm going to cut that out with a Spellbinders circle die from a Nestabilities circle set that I have, and then we will start assembling our card. Alright, so I've got all my pieces here. I have a black mat. I do like to mat things with black, especially when I have a lot of colors going on. I feel like it really makes everything pop. especially when I have black silhouette images on my card. So I've just got a black mat here that I'm just going to glue my card panel to. And then since it is warped, I am going to stick my stamp platform on top of this while the glue dries so everything adheres quite nicely. I did cut out a piece of white craft foam to stick behind my sentiment here that's cut just slightly smaller. And I've got some score tape on the back of it, and then I put some liquid adhesive down as well just to make sure that everything sticks very nicely. And then I'm just going to pull the score tape off the back and put some liquid adhesive down on that as well. And we will adhere this to our card panel. I do like to use Nuvo adhesive for most of my liquid adhesive needs. I like the bottle and the way it's shaped. It doesn't hurt my hands because, as most of you probably know that watch me regularly, I do have nerve problems in my hands and arms. So that bottle, just for whatever reason, the way it's shaped does not hurt my hands. So I'm going back in with that sparkle dust stamp and the Delicata ink, and I'm just going to stamp that in some of the bare areas to fill that in. I did not cover these ones with the holographic embossing powder. You certainly could, but I just thought it would give it just a little bit different look to have some of them covered with the holographic embossing powder and some of them not. So I'm just going to adhere this to my card base, which is an A2 sized card. It will have a little bit of a white border because my black mat is just slightly smaller than an A2 size card. And this will finish off the card for today. I hope that you enjoyed the project and the stamping with the stencil technique. It can be very fun. You can try out different stencils in your stash. And as always, the products and the links to this Fairy Stamper website are in the description box below. We also have links to our Fairy Stamper group, which is fun. We have some fun stuff going on over there. And as always, have a great day.